but it doesn't feel wrong. It feels so right. Brain is torn, cannot compute. Loving it though. Hey crew, I've got the key to that 24 Mercedes-AMG GLS 63. We are going to take it for a drive, but first, let's check out how it looks on the inside and outside. The 24 model year brings some small exterior tweaks, but the key visual identifiers are still here, including that giant Panamericana grille with the vertical slats and the Mega TriStar right there in the center. This is new for 24. Instead of another Benz logo, you get an AMG specific one. The headlight designs are also updated with those projector LEDs with LED daytime running lights and turn signals. Above the same design for the corner vents, here blacked out with the AMG Night Package. This one is painted in Twilight Blue Metallic with a soft metallic flake on the paint surface. It's a good color, and while I'm usually into blue on vehicles, for whatever reason, this one I think would look best in silver. At the side, there are new wheel designs for 24, but these are not some of them. These are the same 23-inch forged alloys that are optional with a matte black finish wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, size 285 in the front and a whopping 325 at the back. Within those wheels are large pizza-sized 15.7-inch vented discs up front, clamped on by now red-painted calipers for 24. There's a running board on the side, and a very large spider that's no charge. With the Night Package, you also get blacked out mirror caps, window trim, and roof rails. Looking at the profile, the rear overhang and the thickness of the D-pillar does give it a bit of a school bus vibe. Those 23-inch wheel sizes are just right, but if it's my money, I'm choosing monoblocks. At the back, the 24 changes bring updated LED taillight and turn signal designs. Peeking your head over the side, you can see the flared out wheel arches. Those are very cool. And down low is a black gloss mixed with black plastic diffuser with 4 blacked out trapezoidal exhaust ports. The tweaks for 24, not sure they really improve the look of this SUV, and while the AMG treatment certainly improves the design of the GLS, this isn't my favorite looking 3-row performance SUV. It just doesn't have any wow factor for me. My question for you is, among all AMG SUVs, which has the most stylish design? Let me know in the comments, and let's check out the interior. Opening up and looking inside at this Bahia Brown and black Nappa Leather interior with suede accents on the seats and perforated inserts. There are second row heated seats as standard, and for no extra cost you can choose to have the captain's chairs, giving you a total of 6 seats, or a bench seat. There is newly standard for 24, a panoramic sunroof. On the doors, we get a leather up top on your armrests, harder plastics down low, open pore wood trim here on this model. Here are your seat controls and the seat heat settings. There's a Burmester 3D sound system as standard. And to get into the third row on the driver's side, you're gonna have to hold these controls for a while. Really, you're gonna wanna get to the passenger side. Because over here, there is a single button to press to send the front passenger seat forward and up a little bit, and then send this seat forward and up as well, to eventually give you a pretty solid access point to the 2 seats in the third row. And I mentioned the side step, but adults will find the sill to be low enough to just step over the running board. Little kids might find that helpful. Getting back here, we find 2 USB-C ports on either side and a cup holder on either side. I'll move over to this seat, which I set for myself at 6 feet tall, behind my own driving position at 6 feet tall, and my knees barely fit. I suppose with the captain's chair design, I could extend this leg and it wouldn't interrupt the second row passengers, but really this is going to be better for kids. Headroom is good for adults though. Head clears the roof, that gets the thumbs up, and I am under this suede wrapped headliner, and you do get air vents up top. Let's move to the second row now. All right, here in the second row, once again behind my own driving position, I've got good knee room. The seat back is all in leather. These netted map pockets will wear out very easily. The foot pockets are good sized, and thigh support is superb. Headroom also gets the thumbs up from me. And oh my goodness, these sweat marks, I apologize. It is worth mentioning that while it was a single button press to move this seat forward and out of the way, you have to hold that button to get it back. Each of us captain's chairs get adjusting armrests, and with the optional warmth and comfort package, the side armrests in the back and up front and the center console are all heated. Here's a cup holder with a extending arm, maybe for the handle of a mug. There is a 4-zone climate control system, and when this deploys down, you get 2 USB-C ports. There is no need to slam these very large doors closed because the GLS 63 has a standard soft close function, but let's listen to build quality. Oh, and find such a solid thud. With smart keyless entry for both the rear and front doors, the front seats add AMG logos to the seat backs with additional side bolstering. They're also heated, ventilated, and massaging as standard. There are aluminum accented foot pedals and tread plates. There are 4 one-touch windows, power adjusting and power folding door mirrors, 3 positions of memory for the driver's seat. This is how you open up your trunk lid and find 17 cubic feet of space behind the third row. There's also a little bit of storage under here for your cargo cover and spare tire. It's a space saver spare. You can use these controls on the right to fold down the third row. I've taken the liberty of lowering this back headrest to show you the difference of when they're up versus when they are down. I'll show you that again from the front seat in terms of visibility. It's worth mentioning before we leave that the third row can be raised or lowered from back here along with the air suspension, while the second row can only be lowered from back here. It has to be raised manually. There is a power close and lock function on the trunk lid. Hopping into the driver's seat. Soft closing up this door. And finding a new steering wheel design for 24 with perforated leather at 9 3. It's very thickly wrapped. It's got a flat bottom to it and these 2 rows of touch-sensitive icons now that are mostly responsive, but if your hands ever get sweaty, then they won't pick up on your cue. So I prefer physical inputs personally. These are some adjusting shortcuts here, and then this is your drive mode dial. The paddles on the back of the wheel are large and in aluminum. Love those. These 2 12.3-inch displays, the digital gauge cluster being customizable, both of them being very visually crisp and responsive, with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that now takes over the whole screen. Above, we find a standard head-up display with stitched leather on the dashboard, some open pore wood trim here, your physical inputs for your climate controls, slide forward on the wood panel and find a wireless charging pad, 2 more USB-Cs, large cup holders, they did fit my big bottle over there, that are heated and cooled. There's a trackpad here to control the infotainment system if you don't want to touch the screen. You've got a physical volume dial. Your drive mode selector is redundant there. More wood, your adjusting air suspension. Open up the console, and you've got a little bit of storage, not that much for this size of vehicle, with another USB-C port. Visibility is compromised a little at that D-pillar, and with the headrest up in that third row, you can see it really cuts into your naked eye visibility. Thankfully, there's standard blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic. This cabin overall is pretty well loaded with luxuries. I wouldn't mind second row seat ventilation as standard and a little more third row legroom, but the technology and style is absolutely here. Now let's take the GLS 63 for a drive. All right, let's fire it up. That is not your average V8 startup note. It shows so much restraint. Then again, this isn't your average 3-row family SUV. Hello, cabin crew. Thank you for joining me for this drive in the 24 Mercedes-AMG GLS 63. We're going to select our drive mode to start things off. We've got Comfort, we have Sport, we have Sport Plus, and if we go in the other direction, you have Individual, a customizable mode, or a slippery wet weather mode. Let's begin in Comfort, as we do, and pull up on the stock to engage reverse, prompting a high-resolution backup camera system. You got a bird's eye view here off to the left. You also have a 3D projection, which is telling me right now, in the rear cross traffic form, that we've got cars around. Look at this one. Control your own universe. Oh, and they gave me a silver GLS in this depiction. The color I think this vehicle looks best in. Back here, we've got a front-facing view in wide angle as well. And same goes for the rear. That's the one I'm going to choose to back on out of this parking space. So handy when you've got traffic around you to see around that traffic. And down into drive, and away we go. let's kick things off with the world-famous horn test. Certainly loud enough, with a very conventional tone. The turn signal sound is next. And that is more unique. It's got a hollow tapping sound to it. Not my favorite. I'm also not a huge fan of the sound, the loudness of this AC system. I've got it on the lowest level 1 setting of fan speed, and it's still pretty distinct, especially when you're at a stoplight. The powertrain, on to the good stuff. 4-liter twin-turbocharged V8 here, making 603 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. This is the same motor, same output we've seen from the GLS 63 since it was introduced in 2020, but now it benefits from a 48-volt mild hybrid system to run some of the accessory functions of the vehicle, like the start-stop system, which is just worked on there. The engine is off, and when I take my foot off the brake, it turns back on. It's very smooth, but I still find myself wanting to turn it off because it can be abrupt in certain occasions. Thankfully, there's a button for that. You just turn it off quickly and it stays off for your whole drive. Let's return to that multi-clutch transmission for a second, because it is neither a torque converter automatic nor a dual clutch transmission, but it has some benefits from each's design. It's got this wet clutch pack, a clutch pack just sitting in a body of oil so it stays cool. It has a small form factor and can handle a generous amount of torque, as this vehicle is generating, with very quick shift times. Similar to dual clutch transmissions, though the best dual clutches like a PDK transmission are still going to shift quicker than this, and it has a smoothness similar to a torque converter automatic, though once again the best torque converters like the ones from ZF are going to be even more velvety in the transition between the gears. But it kind of bridging the gap between all of these variables make this a pretty interesting bit of technology, and it is certainly nice to live with. In the comfort drive mode, you don't really notice those gear changes, and especially unlike a dual clutch, you don't get that clunkiness between neutral and first gear or first to second. It's just a blend, a gentle blend. Also in comfort mode, we're never down on power, though the throttle response is gentle. You can gracefully make your way up to speed. And the seat comfort is tremendous. Lots of adjustment to these seats and to the tilt and telescope of the wheel to find an excellent driving position for yourself. I love the massage function and the fact that it stays on for a really long time. You don't constantly have to go back in and let's turn back on the massage, keep it going. Now we're going to try out the turning radius, and we've got an extra challenge here with cones on one side of the road. But that's not going to be a problem for the GLS 63. Very tight turning circle, and especially impressive given that this vehicle doesn't have rear axle steering, which is interesting given that the smaller wheelbase GLE 63 does have rear wheel steering. So why Mercedes-AMG chose to give it to that vehicle and not to this one is a head scratcher for me, but clearly it doesn't need it all that much, at least in low speed maneuvers, because it is very tight and agile. The ride composure is excellent. You've got adaptive dampers with air springs, and despite being on 23-inch wheels, road blemishes do not leave harsh impacts on your body. And that's notable because just maybe a year or two ago, I found that this air suspension not only gave you some harsher impacts, but also you would really hear the crash of the suspension over road imperfections. They've really tidied that up. They listened to feedback and they improved it. Now we need to see how quick the GLS 63 gets to 60 with a real-world 0 to 60 test up next. For this real-world 0 to 60, I've got my race box set up over here. We're going to move into the Sport Plus drive mode, and though the GLS 63 doesn't have an official launch control, we're going to brake boost it offline and see how that helps us out. All right, here goes. Holding, letting it go. Oh, goodness. 0 to 60 in 3.87 seconds. Rocket ship! a very large rocket ship. And the auditory experience has certainly changed as well. In Sport Plus, the baffles and the performance exhaust are open, unleashing V8 noise on innocent passersby. Such thrust in the mid-range. Incredible acceleration for an almost 6,000-pound SUV. Let's try it in manual mode. I'll tap this here, utilize these nice large aluminum paddles. There we go. Ooh, a pop of overrun. Does let me go all the way out to red line. And with a haste of the shifts. Pop. Delightful pop. The brake pedal, interesting to note, is smooth up until you get to that last little bit of braking at the end. Then it kind of clamps up, and so you have this abrupt forward and backward motion in your bod. But all is forgiven when you put your foot down and experience a rush that feels, what is up with this fly? Feels just abnormal, almost wrong in a vehicle this big. Oh, but it doesn't feel wrong. It feels so right. Brain is torn, cannot compute. Loving it though. Oh yeah, the GLS 63 clearly has the go fast, but does it have the stop quick and turn swift? That's what we'll find out next. I'll put the traction and stability control system into sport handling mode to allow a little bit of play, carry some speed into this curve, clamp down hard on those brakes, really feel the weight of the 3 tons there. Turn-in's quick. Does have a tendency to understeer. Trail braking can bring that nose back under control. And then the ELSD at the back end gives us the shove out of the curve. Woo! Let's go for round 2. Hucking it in. Ooh, active anti-roll bars really cutting down on body roll. And the all-wheel drive with the massive Michelin's taking care of the rest. I understand why these grab handles are here. Because your passengers are gonna need them. Oh! Okie dokie then. Let's take it out of Sport Plus for my own good as I recap what I just experienced in those last 2 corners. I'll start with the steering. Very quick turn-in, aided by these large 23-inch wheels, but then mid-corner, I wasn't getting a lot of road texture transmuted through the steering, such that I had to rely on my eyes a lot and the motions of the body to tell me how much grip was left on the table. And speaking of the body motions, the active anti-roll bars did really curtail those, especially in that second corner, the left to right, showed off that it was staying very flat through the curve. And the all-wheel drive system does have good grip. The Michelin PS4S tires also aiding that feeling of confidence as I carried speed through the curve. The braking, especially on the first corner, this is clearly a 3-ton vehicle. The brakes felt a little overwhelmed by too much pace entering that curve. It stayed very stable and I had good initial bite, but the stopping distance carried me deeper into the curve than I was hoping for. Not bad, just you're reminded all the time that this is a 3-row full-size SUV. Now, since we are on the highway, I do want to quiet up momentarily so we can listen for the NVH level at these speeds. And you're getting a different experience going over different road surfaces. The louder road surface does, of course, create more tire noise, but not to a disturbing level. What is kind of surprising to me is how much wind buffeting I'm getting inside this cabin, because we have the Acoustic Comfort Package, which adds an acoustic laminate to the glass to cut down on wind noise. Yet I can definitely discern it in here, more so than you can in rivals like the Alpina XB7 or Land Rover Range Rover. Thinking of commuting in the GLS 63 or taking a long road trip, you do have standard driving aids like adaptive cruise control, with steering assistance, like this cool projection on the digital gauge cluster for that. It is not a hands-free system, but I will take my hands off briefly to demonstrate how it stays in the center of the lane. Even on a curve like this one up here, how will it handle the departure of this road? No issues there. And it's got a lane change function, so if the lane you're indicating to is open, then it will change lanes for you. This is really among the best of these driving aid systems that I've experienced so far. And that's going to lead into my MilesPerHr word of the day, which for the 24 Mercedes-AMG GLS 63 is monumental. Meaning impressive in size and grandeur, because the GLS 63 isn't just an impressively large SUV, it is also impressively grand in its command of the road and the way it makes you feel inside this cabin. Pricing and competition are just ahead, but first, the top speed and fuel economy. Top speed for the GLS 63 is 174 miles per hour, just barely off the pace of the fastest three-row SUV, the Durango Hellcat, that hits 180 miles per hour. Fuel economy is 14 mpg in the city, 18 on the highway, and 16 combined. The starting price for the GLS 63 is 147,000 buckaroos. This one, as tested, is a little under 155 grand. On to competition, and there are quite a few competitors. First, we've got the Alpina XB7 that starts at $146,000. It makes 630 horsepower, gets to 60 in 3.9 seconds, has a top speed that also ties the Durango Hellcat at 180 miles per hour, and fuel economy of 17 combined. We have the Land Rover Range Rover SV Autobiography that starts at $159,000, makes 523 horsepower, gets to 60 in 4.9 seconds, has a top speed limited to 155 miles per hour, and fuel economy of 18 combined. The Durango Hellcat, Dodge Durango Hellcat, if you want to put the full name on it, starts at $93,000, so much more affordable. It makes 710 horsepower, gets to 60 in 3.9 seconds, has a top speed, as I said, 180 miles per hour, and fuel economy of just 13 combined. And finally, the Cadillac Escalade V that starts at $152,000, makes 682 horsepower, gets to 60 in 4.5 seconds, has a top speed of 124 miles per hour, not very aero efficient, and fuel economy also, like the Durango, of 13 combined. Just so much to unpack with all these different vehicles. If you are on something of a budget, meaning $100,000 is your cap, don't feel bad going with the Durango Hellcat, because it's just hilarious fun and has some decent luxuries inside for the money. If you want the most, speaking of the word of the day, monumental of these performance luxury SUVs, you can't beat the Escalade V. It just has that wow factor to it, and you're also going to be laughing all the way to your destination with the fireworks coming from that supercharged V8's exhaust note. I myself am drawn most to driving dynamics, and in that regard, the Alpina XB7 holds the edge in this class. It rips through curves, it's blistering in a straight line, and on top of that, it has, tied with the Range Rover, the most compliant ride, better so even than this GLS 63. Now, having said that, the GLS 63 does still have excellent ride quality and is really nice to live with performance that will raise the blood pressure of you and, depending on your configuration, 5 or 6 other passengers. It has a stylish and sophisticated cabin. The only two holdouts for me are that the exterior look is lacking in my regard, and there is more wind buffeting even with this Acoustic Comfort Package than I would expect and hope for this price point. But which would you guys choose? Would you have the Alpina XB7? Would you go for that Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat, the Cadillac Escalade V, the Land Rover Range Rover SV Autobiography, or this Mercedes-AMG GLS 63? Let me know in the comments, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this POV drive review. If you did, please like, comment, and share it. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell to get notified, and I will see you again next time. Yeehaw!